Thank you very much يا غادة. صباح الخير عليكم جميعا. I had a glimpse كده coming in. It's very nice to see some good old friends and some colleagues from different circles. كانت AUC or AmCham or other sort of networks where we're very privileged to be working with over the years and continue to work together to help make an impact on the market. I won't be long. I just wanted to emphasize a few points why we're here today. Besides the launch of the report, we're living in very changing and challenging times. And I think if the motto or the drive or the reflections that are happening in the market that affect anything we do is actually one word. I actually summarize it in one word, which is disruption. So either we get affected by it or we drive it, embrace it, and see where we go with it. In the world of education, we always talk about learning. In the world of corporates, we always talk about or at least for the last few years, we talk about the future of work. I think the future of work is very much related to the future of learning. Both of them impact each other. And over the years, we have not been a typical business school. Just to give you a bit of a history here, for those of you who are close to AUC, know that we celebrated a few years ago 100 years. دلوقتي in our 103rd year. But what many people maybe don't know, the school itself is celebrating this year 75 years. There are no many business schools in the world that have been around for 75 years. We started some of our operation back in 1947. And since then, we've been trying to realize an impact on Egypt and in our region. And we define our region as Africa and the Middle East. But it has not been your typical business school. So it's not just degrees. Of course, we offer our degrees. بس في كم هائل من activities, let it be research, let it be community development, let it be services, let it be collaboration hand in hand with the government, civil society, public sector, private sector, in the space of learning. برضو a bit of historical detail, the executive education operation preceded all our degree programs when it comes to business and management. Today is just another sort of stop in the journey to help realize the two things we're here for. One of them is shaping future leaders, and the second is creating knowledge. So I'm delighted with what we're doing here today and the culmination of the effort that happened over the last period with the publication of the first report. And this again reflects what we're trying to do. It's not just to deliver courses, but to advocate for certain ideas, for certain trends, for certain projects that can have an impact on the market. So I'm delighted that many corporations had a say and joined their forces in the sort of the delivery of the report. I believe it's 30 corporations from different walks of life, around 12 different sectors, which is basically comprehensive. And I think this will be an inspiration for the future editions coming up in future years. And this is a very dynamic environment, so there is not a status quo where we have a still picture and we stay there. It's changing all the time. And I go back to my initial point, which is we're living in a disruptive mode. So we need to always sort of work hand in hand to close the gap, which I think is big in the market. And we all know about that. So I don't think we're short of people, at least for Masr يعني. I don't think we're short of people, and we're increasing at an increasing rate. And I don't see this, by the way, as a disadvantage. But I see this as an opportunity that we have to make use of. Otherwise, it becomes a disadvantage. To be able to close that gap, we need to always be on top of things and also cater for the changing needs of the of the corporate world, which is very much part and parcel of why we're here. So again, thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to welcome you on campus. On behalf of the entire team of Executive Education and the Business School, I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you.
Good morning. أنا محمد كسيبة. I'm the Senior Director of Programs في Executive Education. And I'm really happy لسببين. Happy to see you all. وhappy إن الstudy خلصت لأن it took a lot of time and effort and that you were all involved in. So we really thank you for this. We really thank you for being part of this endeavor. I'm gonna quote a couple of things that Dr. Sharif stressed on the word change. I think we're all here agreeing اللي شفناه 2-3 years اللي فاتوا خلت كلمة change. I think we need to figure out another word for it and it's becoming a real constant. It's not a cliche anymore that we use in conferences and in talks. To deal with such change, we wanted to look at the market. We wanted to look at the landscape. And I'm not going to say we were surprised, but we were intrigued by finding that there's no baseline to work from, especially in the L&D landscape. We as thought leaders, as we always try to be, thought of joining hands with the relevant sectors. As we said, it's 12 sectors that we've worked with. And we try to work in a scientific way, engaging the main areas that is related to the L&D landscape. This report is practically a trial from us. It's the first in a series. I mean, this is not the first and last report that we're going to do on this part. It's the initiation of a series of activities. It's not going to be only reports. We're opening the conversation and the discussion on what do you need? What do we as the corporate side of things, what do we need for producing better leaders, producing better business results and so on. So this study is a trial from us to paint the picture of this L&D landscape. And we would love to have you involved in the series of activities that we're having roundtables, webinars, forums, reports, more white papers and so on to cover the same topic. So as Dr. Ghada mentioned in the beginning, this is our trial, so we would be very much open to your thoughts and remarks on how do we get this better each and every time. A quick idea about the sample structure. The study was, as Dr. Sharif said, we covered 30 companies. For a B2B sample, this is quite the sample. You know, statistically speaking, أنا بكلم نفسي because this slide is different. Okay, thank you. Because statistically speaking, any sample, حتى في ال B2C side, any sample that is 33 is a viable sample. When it comes to B2B, this is a big sample, to be very clear. And again, the homogeneity of the results, of the answers, gave us quite the statistical validity. Our study was almost 50% small and medium companies and 50% large companies, large corporates from 12 sectors. And we tried again to balance between the multinationals and the large corporates within the market. The study was entirely led and covered by us as Executive Education, by our team. To be very transparent, this gives me more, and I trust the study more than going to research firms because each and every member of the team was very much involved in the nitty-gritties of the study and the nuances of the topic. And I'm gonna leave the mic now to Mrs. Yasmin Khalil, who was the leading force, or the driving force behind this study. Who's gonna take us through the details of the 6 areas that we've covered in this study. So thank you again. Thank you for coming. And
hello everyone. أنا ياسمين خليل. I'm program manager at Executive Education School of Business. I manage real estate and sports management programs, but I come from an intense background of market research. So I had the pleasure to be leading this project with Dr. Ghada, Mas, and Dr. Mohammed. And I'll walk you through the key highlights. طبعا, as Dr. Ghada said, I would urge you, not all the details of the report will be here, but would urge you all to download the report and get the full-fledged information and analysis and backgrounds that we have done throughout each and every point that I'm going to highlight here. So, yeah. Okay, so our study dives into, as I said, 6 topics. We're going to go through the perceptions and trends, the key perceptions and trends that the corporate landscape has pointed out, the challenges that they are facing when it comes to fulfilling their needs from an L&D perspective, from a learning and development needs for their employees. We're going to identify the applied dynamics by corporate world to identify their training needs, what sources of information they use for identifying training providers, what are the selection criteria, the weights of each, the decision-making process inside our client organizations, the roles and the influence of each, and the post-program evaluation, criteria applied, and what is hoped for in the future from an L&D provider side. And of course, the training format preferences, especially after what COVID has changed in our working dynamics and our life dynamics. And of course, on our offering as an L&D providers and the expectations of corporates in terms of formats. So, first section, هم key perceptions and trends. Challenges, in other words, that corporate world or the client organizations are facing and are wishing to be overcome or to be handled in the future. Sorry. Yep. Okay. So, احنا خدنا ايه؟ During the study, كل الانترفيوز اللي احنا عملناهم, the structured in-depth interviews, this area was the most اللي بيتقال عليها the most intense when it comes to what they are needing, ايه الحاجات اللي ناقصة في الماركت, what we're hoping for. It was very challenging from an analysis perspective, and احنا قعدنا funnel it down and to convert it into weights in order to come up with how pressing a need it is, piling up all this information that we had. It ended up into 5 key market gaps or unmet needs that has been highlighted and has been hammered on by the corporate world, and it's really to the point. And we see it and we feel it as an L&D provider or an L&D training provider. The most pressing need was, of a weight of 87%, was that corporates aspire for training providers to act as the role of a consultant. They wish for a consultant-partner relationship between a training provider and a corporate, our client organization. Actually, this is not reflected only, or it's not an unmet need only here in Egypt. It has been reported in other reports. It's just important to mention, we forgot to mention it in the beginning, we are members, we are standing as AUC School of Business, we're standing members in UNICON, the global consortium for university-based executive education. UNICON releases reports global, highlighting the global trends within the L&D landscape. During this report as well, we try to pinpoint the key points of tangency or comparative points between our findings in the local market and what is happening in the global side of it. And actually, this point, with an 87% weight, the consultant-partner relationship is one of the most pressing needs, unmet needs globally. However, this requires efforts from both sides. It requires efforts from us as a training provider, and it requires the input of the corporate side as well. We both need to change the mindsets. We have a role that we as training providers should work on changing the mindset and the positioning that corporates view us as. We are solutions provider. We're not just off-the-shelf training providers. هتاخد الحاجة as such, whether it fits 70% of your needs, it fits 60% of your needs, that's what is offered. No, we as training providers, we have this burden. We have to communicate that we have this room for customization. We have this room for creating customer-centric solutions. And corporate world as well has to act as the partner, which is actually in order to customize the need and to tailor the product to be offered to the max, so as it hammers on the need and it fulfills it. However, as we all know, customization means revamping or revisiting for the entire business model of whatever is offered. Customization has a factor of reduced efficiency, financial efficiency, I mean. So it comes with a premium cost. However, it is available. It is being worked on. Key training providers are open to it, and they are actually capturing this unmet need. The second one is, with an 81%, is the rising need for experiential learning. Actually, corporates were highlighting the fact that they're no longer interested in providing certifications for their employees. They are more skewed towards elevating a job skill, developing what is missing for the employee to excel in a certain task, to provide or to invest in training that would resolve an issue in the most efficient and effective manner. And in the end, they want a blend between theory, practical experience, and application, and of course, relatability to whatever they are doing. So as in the shortest and most efficient way possible. And this is actually, I'm not promoting or anything, but this is what we're trying to do. يعني this is what يعني أنا شو مثل ما mention it's just يعني slide it inside, but that's how we're doing it here in executive education. We no longer rely just on the inform and share in terms of delivering information. We respect the fact that corporates are investing in a financially challenging world these days, where training is rather scarce, training budgets, I mean. They want to hammer on the nail على طول ويعني يجيبوا جون بالtraining. But that's what we're doing. Actually, we على طول هنلاقي في communications بتاعنا experiential learning, active learning. That's what we're doing. In order to reach from the start point to the end point, and in the most efficient and effective blend between practice, localization, and relatability to whatever sector we're speaking of. I'm sorry. So the third pressing need عندنا اللي هو 71% is the effective assessment support. Meaning with effective assessment support is that corporates have highlighted the fact that they would wish for, let's say, a three-dimensional assessment model. They would like an assessment pre the training, during the training, and post the training. So as we both, as a training provider, and they as a client, can visualize the start point and the end point, and can realistically map development on paper. They can see where we started, how we ended. And of course, identify and, let's say, fairly evaluate the training provider. Not just on the fact that how satisfied you are or how happy you are. It's about how efficient and how effective and how influential the training was on your performance. Fourth one, with a 53% weight, is the inability. Corporates view that training providers are unable yet to provide the optimum blend between soft skills and hard skills. They view what's offered in the landscape, in the corporate landscape. It's either soft skills training, personal skills training, or it's strictly technical, hard skills training. However, we as well, we always blend. We have the business acumen courses and all that we request for any graduating participant in the level of the certificates and up to the diplomas. Business acumen is a soft skill. It's not a hard skill, regardless of the fact that you're coming from a real estate background, you're taking a healthcare, or you're taking an operations or a supply chain certificate. You have to complement with a business acumen course. We're trying to cover the fact that you, as a graduate of business school, you should have a mix of both. Last but not least is the utilization of digital technology. Digital technology and its use in training and its use in everyday life طبعا اختلف في الثلاث سنين اللي فاتوا due to what the dynamics that was imposed on us by COVID. However, still it was highlighted that by key corporates in our interviews that still there is potential, still that there are modes of training using digitalization or digital learning technologies that are not yet capitalized either by us as learning providers, in the learning providers landscape, I mean, or its acceptance from the corporate viewpoint. They can accept that digital learning techniques or digital learning options could be as effective as the traditional ones. The second section is the dynamics of identifying company training needs. Actually, this was a very interesting section for us because there hasn't been a comprehensive study telling us إحنا في مصر الشركات بتعرف إزاي التريننج نيدز بتاعتهم وكل شركة ليها الستايل بتاعها والطريقة بتاعتها. This was very interesting, this information that the corporates have told us. We put it on paper and we classified it into processes and methods and analysis in order for us to map out which strategy is applied, and you can clearly tell which one that you use in your company and what other options that you may have. Of course, you're aware of it, I'm sure, but it's, here it's weighted, here it's clarified in preferences, which is applied and how much or to what extent. Yeah. So, ايه التريجرز that elicit training needs؟ يعني ازاي الكومبانيز identify او بيقولوا there is a training need. 51% of the burden lies on the L&D function, the HR. Yes, you do the heavy lifting with a 51%. Yes, it's we call it here, it's an internal processes or internal strategy, which is the classical way. The HR department, more or less, he takes the lead in the process, goes on with the discussions with the different departments, identify the needs, review the performance feedbacks by the department heads, together with the budget, they allocate the needs, and then they start looking for how to fulfill these needs, what's offered in the market, and then they set the plan. That's 51% of it. 22% is department-driven, which, let's say, it's bottom-up. Yani it's like the ad hoc. When there is a departmental need that's brought to the table or an individual need, I have an employee who I need to add to this degree or this certificate, and so on and so forth. That's the second with the 22%. 16% is market-driven. Like, for example, what's happening nowadays with the digital marketing, digital transformation. There is a certain wave of developmental, market-related, sector-related skill or training that I need all my employees to be qualified with, and then I have to respond to that and qualify them with it. That's a 16%. And then 11%, which is the top-down, which here we mean with management imposed or management requested in order to fulfill a certain strategic direction within the company. And that is only 11%. I'll walk you quickly through the approaches in which they identify the needs. It's actually two processes, either top-down or it is bottom-up. The top-down is that, in a nutshell, management directs but does not participate in the details, which means that management starts with a strategic vision. They say where they want to end, they allocate the budget, and then the R&D, the L&D and the HR take the lead and go down till they fight to the department heads. It's an HR driven, however, it is requested by top management, driven from a strategic perspective. The second approach is bottom up with management participation. The previous one was just management is telling the direction, has no take or say in the details. Here, actually, it is management needs to be convinced, management needs to have a say, management needs to decide, because it's driven from an actual need that the department is raising a flag. We need this training for my team or for this group of individuals or to cater for this market need. And then the HR reacts and then convinces management. Management reviews is involved in the process, and then whether it's approved or not. Type. Any approach is more used than the others. And in which companies? Management directed, but does not involve in the details. 76% is in large locals and multinational companies. Management just set the strategic vision and the HR takes the lead. They're not involved in the details, budget is set from the beginning, and it's just a day-to-day activity, and the details and nitty-gritties are always left to the employees. 24% of SMEs go with this direction. However, sorry, with the management involvement, or the bottom up, 67% is for small and medium enterprises, while this strategy applies only in 33% of the large locals and the multinationals. So, of course, as we know, طبعا, training needs vary by career level. However, how much does it change and how much does it vary across? يعني juniors, أنا training provider, it would be very enlightening for me, and of course for you as an L&D professionals and HR professionals, you could clearly say that. But however, having it clear here on paper, you can clearly pinpoint the differences across the needs when it comes to variations by level. Yeah, juniors مثلا, speaking of the type of training needs, like junior level, more functional, technical, heavy details. However, in the middle, it's actually functional and retention oriented. هو في الphase D, he's not just focused only on developing, he's focused on developing for the good of the company and for the retention oriented direction of the employee. And of course, because this level of employees, the strategy is clearly shown on it, is impacted by the strategy and the direction of the company. And of course, investment is heavier as we go down, like we see in the senior level, leadership skills, international training, heavy investment. فكل ما بنزيد في الكارير level كل ما الintensity in details بتقل. However, the objective and the level of investment بيختلف طبعا. Program length. The juniors والmiddles are more frequent. بديهم bites, shorter training programs compared to the seniors. Seniors لا. Seniors could be enrolled into large or heavy programs, long duration, yet less frequent. You cannot enroll them like every year or maybe in a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. Regarding the complexity of evaluating the needs and identifying what they need and the consequent plans, of course, juniors is the most complex because their needs are numerous. They are in numerous levels. They are in large numbers. Many factors are involved in the process. However, when you go higher in the hierarchy, it's less complex. Clear needs, clear pinpointed programs. Programs that fits their needs are few. Options are limited. Budgets are clearer, objective is much more clear and sound. Sorry, budgets. لما جينا نسأل على budgets, actually we got budgets ranges. Our interviewed corporates were kind enough to share with us and the ranges for their annual budgets for training. Here we are just reporting ranges with the lowest point and the highest point. The lowest reported point reflects the reported average budget by SMEs within the same sector. And the higher end point of the range reflects their average reported budget by multinationals and large locals. So, for example, we see the banking has the highest investment or the highest reported annual training budget ranging from 18 till 40 million Egyptian pounds. And it goes down to reaching 250,000 to 1.25 million Egyptian pounds for agribusiness. So, when do corporates in Egypt allocate training budgets? This is very important for us. احنا اللي عملنا السؤال ده عشان احنا عايزين نعرف انتوا بتحطوا البادجت امتى عشان نبدا نزلنا عليكم. But it was very, very interesting for us. Actually, يعني it's very interesting for us لان احنا we had this debate. لا في January, لا في fiscal year, لا في companies, which is true. Some companies revolve around the fiscal year and they have to set their budgets at June. Others in January, but we have to see it on paper in terms of weight. And عايز أعرف قد إيه بقى بتوع January and قد إيه بتوع June and so on. 80% of our interviewed corporates have assured us that January is the hot month for their setting plans of the training. And it's followed by March. March actually is still in Q1, if I were speaking Q1. And then it comes for October for the coming year. And then June, 5% is just for companies operating with a fiscal year as their start at June. July يعني. طيب, training provider preferences. إيه الأحسن؟ إحنا اللوكالز ولا المالتيناشنالز ولا إحنا الاثنين؟ local versus global training provider preferences actually. Multinationals, 80% preferred global training providers and 20% for local. While in large-sized locals, it was almost the opposite. 70% prefer local training providers and 30% for globals. While SMEs, the ultimate loyals, where 93% for local providers and 7% for global providers. In-house versus outsourced training preferences. Because of the rising trend of in-house training, that was very important, of course. We need to visualize how much in-house trainings are taking up from the L&D or the training providers market. And we found that 37% of our companies, most of their training is in-house. 20% is mostly outsourced, and 43% is split between in-house and outsourced, depends on the need and depends on the situational variation. So how do corporates identify training providers? What do you do in order to know about training providers? Actually, word of mouth is the leading identification technique. Word of mouth, meaning here it's just not just brand equity, it's actually networks, recommendations, referrals, and the like. Reviews, that's 31%, followed by direct approach, which here comes the equity and the history and the actually برضو direct approach is either or. Yani you can go for you're trying a new or you're just following what you heard, that there were a positive word of mouth. Previous experience, alumni, returning clients, 22%. Website and digital ads, just 12%, which triggers initial trial. I mean, events have declined into 8%, and email shots for 4%. So we're speaking of networks, direct approach, and previous experience, التلاتة على بعض, which means that reputation, return clients, a long history of positive reviews and positive feedback, credit, that takes up most of the pie, as we see here. Selection criteria, decision-making and roles. So, لما جينا نقول how do you decide؟ خلاص انت عرفت احنا هنعمل ايه؟ How do you decide? We have the involvement of 4 key departments actually. HR, top management, finance, and heads of departments. These are the 4 parties اللي بيبقوا ليهم علاقة بالدecision. They influence the decision. However, the influence and the involvement of each varies in different stages of the decision. يعني, for example, the criteria and the changes. مين اللي بيقول ايه الكرايتيريا؟ مين اللي بيقول this is better than that? It's merely a decision of HR with a 68%, followed by finance, of course, with a 32%. When I say the final decision, the yes or the no, go or no go, it's involvement of 3 parties. HR is a 49%, finance, of course, almost as of an equal weight, يعني قريبين قوي من بعض, 44%, and 7% for the top management. Budget control, that's expensive, that's pricey, that's good. Yes, no. سؤال السنة الجاية, it's good for this year. It's a decision that is mostly, of course, heads of departments, HR, and then heads of departments with a 23%, and finally with finance. So we can see برضو the heavy lifting falls off on the shoulders of the HR, or the meaning, of course, the L&D heads, the managers, the talent development. That's what we're saying here about HR. Type. Factors affecting provider selection. يعني انت دلوقتي خلاص you have a short list of providers. How can you actually identify which provider you're going to go for? These are the factors that the interviewed corporates have highlighted. Number 1 is quality. We may perceive that's price. No, it's not. Actually, it's quality. Quality here was discussed several times during the interviews. It's a mix actually of the material offered, the syllabus, and the instructor, and the entire experience. It's quality all across the experience from start to end. And then followed by provider's reputation and price. Responsiveness. Responsiveness was a key factor. How fast and how responsive the training provider is to my needs, to my requests. That's a key and a core factor in selecting the provider. And global accreditation is an 11%, and being an international provider is 3%. So again, we're talking about quality as number 1, and price next second, and then the third is about customer relationship. So the selection criteria and decision-making roles. There were 2 processes highlighted for the decision making after piling in كل digesting in كل الانفورميشن اللي احنا قلناها دي خلاص we decided how do they take it from ده البروفايدر اللي انا هشتغل معاه دي البادجت لغايه الديسيجن. It's actually two processes. Either it's an RFP and selection committee by direct approach يعني and a tender, or it's by direct assignment. I go with the AUC, I will send a request. مفيش preference مين أكتر من مين. It depends أكتر على situational variation. يعني when we asked how do you go with process 1 or process 2, it wasn't actually, there was no clear-cut answer. It was more of a situational variation. It depends on the situation at hand. It depends on the size of the budget that we're speaking of. It depends about the managerial decisions at the time and the strategy applied, how pressing a need it is, and I need to move fast, I go with direct approach. Or no, and I have the time and it's a huge investment and I need to go with the tender approach. It is a situational variation choice. How do they evaluate program quality or post-program evaluation? That's a very, very debatable topic that we spent, we as executive education members, we spent with some of you in the interviews and discussing it because it is a very pressing need. We need to identify whether actually this investment was right or not. طب بنعمل ايه عشان نتأكد كده؟ These are the 4 methods that were reported to be applied. Not necessarily all 4, maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe some companies apply 4, but these were the 4 methods that have been applied in the market by various size companies, sizes, and whether local or multinationals, which is pre and post program exam. بعمل pre and post to compare the results, or a provider report. ان انا بطلب من البروفايدر 2 weeks after the program conclusion, whether it's the grades, whether it's the assessment, an instructor evaluation, pass or fail, تبقى البردن بيقع هنا على البروفايدر. أو an employee performance progress, that's a long-term evaluation إن هو أنا اديته certain training, I expect a certain improvement in his employee performance feedback by the direct manager, and it's usually a long-term one that is acquired 1 to 3 months post-program conclusion. And participant feedback surveys, which you're just asking, how was it, did it fulfill your needs, and so on and so forth. However, the approach خامس بقى, it was raised on the table when we discussed, and it has been, of course, raised globally, and it's been a topic of discussion since 2000, or since more than a decade, for as far back papers that we have read through the study, the topic of return on investment. It was raised that you guys wish that you could have a return on investment measurement as a tool for assessing the efficiency of it or the effectiveness of a training. However, it was viewed as, yet it is the most aspired for, it has not been applied yet in the local market. However, before we go deeper into this point, I have to highlight 2 important points. The payoff of executive education training is supposedly to be long-term. يعني مش صح إن أنا وأكيد إحنا عارفين إن أنا هياخد الtraining, I can assess the effect or the performance difference like 3 months after or even within the same year. المفروض إنه it's a postgraduate degree that works on a certain skills and it is long-term. ففكرة إن أنا أقيس return on investment shortly after, that's not 100% correct. And of course, it is subject to a range of externalities. يعني this employee or this person is working in a business environment and in a company that has different ranges of externalities and external factors that may affect his performance, whether it pushes it up or pushes it down. It's not necessarily due to the training that he completed. Also, what I said means that it affects the development activity that have been applied and makes return on investment measurement a bit tricky. However, from globally published studies and from what we're facing daily in executive education here at the School of Business, this approach requires collaborative effort. If we're going to go this direction in the future, it requires a collaborative effort. Its burden does not lie only on the provider or on the corporate client. It is a collaborative effort between both parties during the entire training experience. How can we do that? 2 things. 2 directions have to be covered. Number 1, training providers, for example us, should raise the issue of the return on investment at the design phase. ما ينفعش اخد an off-the-shelf training or an existing training and at the end get requested, يلا عايزين return on investment. No. These factors that the company is, that we're going to calculate the return on investment on has to be set from the beginning, had to be incorporated and be considered during the design phase عشان في الآخر يطلع لي measurable outcome أقدر في الآخر factors that I can incorporate together وأطلع في الآخر return on investment. فagain, it is a request that should be issued at the beginning, and the program should be designed or tweaked so as to fulfill that request. The other thing is that the return on investment is not always measured in financial terms. يعني you shouldn't expect that how much my revenue would increase, how much this asset would, no, it could be reflected in different definitions than financial terms. And it, of course, would be much more relevant and much more impactful if it was linked to strategic directions set by each client. So في الآخر هو two teams اشتغلوا مع بعض يعملوا program من الأول. الobjective بتاعه يبقى return on investment measurement, design يتظبط من الأول with certain criteria agreed upon by both parties, and measurement directions أو measurement variables معروفة من الأول. So الفورمولا اتحطت, training يبدأ, results تطلع, we calculate. That's how return on investment is measured. Like, we cannot request it off the shelf. Last but not least is the training format preferences. As I said in the introduction, إحنا COVID غير how we work and how we do things and how we accept certain formats. Actually, corporates are requesting or are expecting for the training provider to have different types of formats when it comes to delivery and options. But which do you prefer? What do you go for? When we ask consecutive days versus staggered days in terms of training, 80% were going for staggered days in order to allow for the work-life balance, in order to allow for digesting of information and taking breaks in terms of bites. Preferred timings of the days, whether days and working days or working or after working hours. During working hours were the most preferred for 77% because it was highlighted that client organizations, when they are requesting a certain training from their employees, they're considering it part of the job. It's with the rising trend of corporates that support the work-life balance, they see that it's unfair somehow to request them to add additional hours for training post their working hours. Preferred timings, whether it's weekends or weekdays, of course, weekdays for the same reason, the work-life balance direction that we're all moving forward and try to support. Type, short versus long. Short here, احنا كtraining provider we may say that short is like 6 weeks. Short لا احنا حبينا نعرف الناس بتقول انا عايز short program. طب what do you mean by short program? Short programs here was يعني الناس كلها شايفة إنه less than 3 months is a short program. More than 3 months is considered a long program. زي معكوسة هنا. ف 70% were going for the short programs. Long programs are rather not preferred. Again, we're going to the direction of efficiency, effectiveness, limited time, on the job, hit on the nail على طول, reach results quickly, short programs. And then whether it's virtual, hybrid or blended or physical, the physical and the hybrid were the highest with a 46 and 43%, while the virtual still is an 11%. الناس somehow عايزين the physical component of things, عايزين the interaction, the face-to-face interaction when it comes to training. However, the hybrid is still of an equal or more or less a bit smaller preference. It is on the rise as well. And that's it. Thank you. So, questions, please.
As I said in the beginning, we need your feedback on what you heard. We need to know whether these questions are enough for our report next year. The 30 companies that participated in our study this year are each going to get an individualized report that benchmarks their results against the others in the study. Each company that participated in the study also got a thank you gift from us in the form of 5 slots for their staff in our business acumen asynchronous online courses. So the first thing is that we'd like to invite participants from companies who are not part of the study to join us next year and be part of the sample. And we'd like to hear from you what else should be included to make this meaningful for you as you make decisions. أنا مدرسة فأنا بدرس فأنا I'm going to call on people. يعني ده I'll go table by table. Yes. Oh, I got a volunteer. See, when you threaten, you get a volunteer. تفضلي.
Thank you. حاسة one of the main points that we need to consider for the future is the role of the learner. لأن احنا هنا بنتكلم على executives. فهو شايف الباين ازاي؟ يعني أنا بتكلم ROI. لو هو ما عندوش باين خلاص. فمش بس management و HR و finance، لا learner نفسه عنده an important role.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. Yes.
Hi. أنا برضو يعني also thank you so much for the presentation. بس أنا I had an expectation, for example, to see what's trending from a learning or training perspective happening in other companies as well. يعني as an HR team leader, for example, I always seek to invest in my team. So I would like to see what other companies as well are looking to invest in their talents that maybe we can take as a best practice or something. So
Okay,
this is something that I was expecting to see.
I agree with you and thank you for the question. I think part of this will come in the next presentation when we show you the kinds of requests we have been getting from companies for learning and development that's customized. But this is the يعني coming in 5 minutes.
Great, thank you.
ما سمعتش حاجة من الترابيزة دي. اتفضل. Yes.
صباح الخير. ثانك يو على البرزنتيشن طبعا. اعرف حضراتكم بنفسي، انا اسلام السقا، هيد اوف ليرنينج اند تالنت بنك العربي الافريقي الدولي.
اهلا وسهلا.
اهلا بحضرتك.
Very good friends of AUC.
يا فندم احنا نتشرف بده. سامبلي يعني انا هقاد لنفس الايدياز او نفس الريكوست اللي اتقالت. الليرنر بقى عليه رول مهم جدا. محتاجين ان احنا نديك ديبر اكتر في الدايمنشنز الخاصه بالليرنر نفسه.
باي ان.
يس. بالنسبه لي من وجهه نظري ايه اللي انا ممكن ابقى محتاجه دلوقتي من الاي سي فرايتي اكتر في التكنيكال بانكينج كورسز او بروجرامز. انتوا كومباتيتور عظيم في الماركت.
مروه هنا؟
يس واحنا يمكن احنا اتناقشنا يس فهي يمكن انا من وجهه نظري.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. حاضر.
Thank you so much.
حاضر.
بس thank you so much.
هناخد منك الليستة.
Sure.
I will hold مروة accountable for
أكيد.
providing.
أكيد. Thank you so much.
عايز حاجة أسرع من كده؟
يا فندم لا طبعا يعني ميرسي جدا ليكم.
Thank you. سمية اتفضل. I'm sorry اتفضل حضرتك.
صباح الخير. مصطفى الجندي L&D مانجر في بانك دي كير. أنا بس يعني في الأول كنا بنتكلم على الفيوتشر اوف ورك. في برسنتج شفتها أنا بشكل بيرسونالي اتخضيت يعني 11% مع إني أنا عارفها يعني بس 11% بس من الترينيز بيفضلوا الفيرتشوال. فإحنا رايحين على الفيوتشر اوف ورك، رايحين على الترانسفورميشن. وي ترانسفورم هاو وي ار دوينج ثينجز. في شركات وكوربريتس في مكان كتير النهارده بقت مالكش ستاتيك اوفيس، انت كل يوم بتقعد من حته او اشتغل من اي حته. فور اكزامبل امازون مثلا. ف يعني what is the future of digital learning in Egypt? what is the future او الاستراتيجي of EUC في حته development of how we يعني conduct virtual courses. علشان في رأيي ان البرسنتج دي this is a red flag for the strategy of transformation and future of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. And again, we will get into the digital transformation part, and I'll give you a chance to respond.
Mission participants. So when we add the layer of the learner, as was mentioned, this will be taken, their preferences will be taken into consideration.
Exactly.
Just,
And also let us remember, in the future of work is not going to be one thing. Future of work is going to be hybrid. It will be at different paces of implementation and execution. It will need to become in smaller bites. For the challenge now for executive education providers is how to make the small bite meaningful and substantial. لأنه برضو there is يعني reflection and learning that needs to happen. So thank you for the question, and this is something that we can definitely add. Sumaya, تفضلي.
So thank you. A bit of a longer question. The way jobs are being viewed globally now puts in the middle, and the skills of individuals are the key enablers.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you think about some of the things that were said in the presentation about different stakeholders who provide inputs on the requirements, when you think about the relationship between the provider and the L&D expert, when you think about the term ROI, for me, what that means there has to be certain elements that we think about when we're saying that we're going to require someone to build capacity around a skill. So it is no longer about tasks. It is no longer about a set of criteria that I say, here are 10 things that I'm holding you accountable for. But I'm just curious to understand, when you were talking to the L&D experts and you yourself as an educational institution, how are we thinking about jobs in the future? Because it is not, organizations are no longer going to be using predefined competency frameworks. That's old school, خلاص يعني. I'm just keen on understanding that, because for me it's very intriguing.
Sharif wants to make a comment.
Absolutely, and thank you, Sumaya, for bringing this. I have to tell you, this conversation is very close to my heart. I love it, because half of my career, 17 years, I spent it in executive education. So you can tell how interested I am in what you're saying. But I want to build on something that Sumaya mentioned. This was actually my comment, so thank you for bringing that up. When it comes to the future of learning and the future of work, we always claim that there will not be one size fits all. But it's not organization-based, it's even individual-based. So the key words here is personalization and customization, having the learning and development personnel working with the learners, thank you for bringing the first comment, is extremely important. Otherwise, it will not fit how we perceive the future, which actually we still don't know. But the key word is personalization and customization per the capacities per individual, مش masses across the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharif. And also, Sumaya, one of the things I think we need to remind ourselves of is that when we sit as people who are in the learning and development environment, and there are things that we know and take for granted, sometimes we are speaking at a level that is not what is happening in companies actually. We assume that because we know it and because we know this is a trend, it's there. لا. What we have seen is what is happening on the ground is quite different. But this is something to let us talk at the level of, we know where the gap is, for how can we bring people up to think about those issues. I haven't heard from this side of the room. تعرفين الدور كان جاي عليكم صح؟ كله بيبتسم. Thank you, Shri.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much. أنا اسمي جورج ناشد. I'm HR Director, Talent Management Orascom Construction.
أهلا وسهلا.
And thank you for this invaluable report. Actually, احنا عندنا very challenging things in this area. One of the things that we have to look deeply in the next report, inshallah, in the Egyptian labor market itself. How the Egyptian laborers are going to be in 5 years from now, because
you're talking about blue collar or both?
This is another thing, because we have to differentiate. Are we going to invest in blue collars versus white collars, or what? I will talk about this from the perception of a construction sector, yes. Because what's driving the market now are a lot of very high-end projects, technical ones, especially in Egypt now. Yani we are talking about, we are designing and implementing the high-speed train, the monorail, the LRT, Metro Line 4 will be done by Egyptians for the first time in 30 years. We are going to take this over from very multinational companies like Vinci, Bouygues, and that stuff. This will put a pressure on L&D teams and corporate sectors to see how much they will invest in this area. Will we go to the blue collars? Because this will be versus timing. We need to complete these projects by like 2023, 2024, and we have to have the people equipped to run these projects afterwards. And we see a lot of corporations. Last week we were having a meeting with the German Chamber of Commerce and ACA GIZ, hosted by GIZ, and we were talking about this because this will be the big enabler in the future or shaping the future for the stuff, the blue collars and white collars in Egypt. And this is very important.
If I understand what you're saying, it's the upskilling of the workforce to meet the current projects that are in the pipeline, that are in the foreseeable future.
Yes, to meet the current projects and meet the current demands. So this will be a very big enabler to us.
The upskilling.
The upskilling, yes.
So
and
how to manage it,
how
and
it
how
will
to
look like.
identify the skills,
Yes.
and how to do it while people are
yes,
working.
and the percentage as well.
تمام.
How much we'll
تمام.
invest for the white collars versus the blue ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Yes, تفضل. Maha.
Thank you for the report. I have a lot of questions, so I'll try to filter them a bit. So a lot of questions relate to why. So when you talk international versus local, why? Did you probe on these things? Because it's actually a bit provocative as well.
Yes. In the detailed report, you will find some of the whys.
Okay, fine. Also, in terms of project-based delivery, have you probed on this versus the normal formats? So it's delivering a project to senior managers as an assessment, as an experiential mode. So I think this should also, I don't know if it's covered or not. On the consultancy bit, that also intrigued me a bit, because does the customer understand what consultancy in that, because there are consultants. So are they hiring really consultants in that sense? Are they willing to pay for that? How far do they want to go and balance between consultancy, facilitation, and pure delivery? So these are some of the things. When it comes to the comment on personalization, customization, there has to be a clear trade-off with scalability and commercialization as well, from the client and from the provider end. So is this also clear or not? I'll stop there because I have many other comments.
Thank you, but we will get a chance to talk to you one-on-one to know more. One of the issues about training provider as a consultant and a partner, we have also seen that in Unicorn reports as a global trend. So corporates globally are asking training providers for more services, and in many cases are not willing to pay for it. So what executive education is trying to explain is what it takes to offer the services you are asking for. So if that's what you're asking for, this is what it takes to do it properly, so that we are doing something as it should be done. It takes working together to find answers. We are the owners of the process. We are the owners of the quality. You are the owners of the content. So we won't come with an answer, but we will work with you to own the process and take you on the journey to reach something that we will discover together. So we will be inquiring together. This is what it takes. And this costs money because it takes skilled resources from the side of the provider. So this is something that is being raised globally in the executive education community. Thank you all. I have to stop here for the Q&A to go to the next presentation. I'd like to welcome Mohammed Abdsalam, Executive Director of Executive Education, and he will be joined by Marlene Michel, Director of Business Solutions. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. 1,041 days. That's how long it's been since I had the honor to stand in front of a group of professionals like yourselves. December 12th, 2019 was the meeting where we introduced executive education, as we called it at the time, a business reconfigured. We were trying to explain what we were trying to do in order to reinvent ourselves. So since 1,000 days more than 1,000 days has gone by since I had the chance to stand like this, I will allow myself a little bit of repetition for those who joined us at the last time. So basically, we introduced at the time what we were working on in terms of strategy, in terms of direction. As Dr. Sharif has said, the school itself has been here for 75 years. Executive education itself, 47 years under different names. First, at the beginning, it did not have a name at all, and then it was the Management Center, and then we added the IEEI, and then the IEEI and the Management Center joined forces to become executive education. And then in 2019, we decided to take it to the fourth phase, and we called that phase Business Reconfigured, because we thought that from one direction we were reconfiguring ourselves, and we were helping our vision and mission was to help organizations reconfigure themselves through our training and courses and so forth. So basically, we decided that what we want to do is always strive to provide best-in-class programs and activities. We wanted to make sure that we are aligned with the School of Business philosophy and the degree program. So we do not work in an isolated silo from the School of Business. We try as much as possible to adhere to their objectives and the vision and mission and so forth. And we thought that partnership is very important as well. Partnership with academic institutes, partnership with our corporate partners that we work with in order to manage to accomplish this best-in-class programs. And for that, we did a lot of things. One of them is identify the different elements that are important for us to reach this stage, create the advisory council for the executive education, and I would like to thank them for how helpful they have been throughout the year and continue to be in giving us the outside view and opinion to what we're doing. It's very important to have an outsider view of the activities that we're doing in order to be a little bit objective in how we go after the different goals. And one of the main things that we have mentioned at the time is that one of the things that we need to learn is that in order to accomplish all of this, we need to walk the talk. So we cannot be teaching anyone anything and then in our own operation doing something different. So one of the first things is that at the time we did not do any marketing. We just sat around waiting for people to come with word of mouth. So it was very important to us to make sure that all of these things are being tackled. So what we did is, what we did is, one of the things is streamlining activities, because originally we had groups of programs where everybody was doing everything. So we had a team for HR, we had a team for marketing, we had a team for healthcare programs and so forth, and they did everything from recruiting participants into managing the instructors and the delivery and the operation and everything. And what we did is that we started dismantling this structure in order to tackle every element where we saw that there is development, there is effort that needs to be done. So we created an operation department by itself, split into participants affairs that take care of participants from beginning to end, program implementation, how the scheduling and everything takes place, instructors affairs, how do we select the instructors, how do we evaluate them and remunerate them and so forth. The important area of internal processes and accreditation, because accreditation is extremely important for the school, so how we handle these things. And for the first time, we created the program unit, headed by Mohammed Kaseba here, where basically we started for the first time having program managers that their main task is looking at what needs to be there in their program areas and develop those. Also from a content standpoint and program structure and so forth, as I'm going to handle in the next slide, we used to have a one-size-fits-all program in each area. So we had a marketing department. Whether you're new to marketing, been there for 15 years, you're a guru, this is what we have to offer, and it should be good and well. So we started to look at a pyramid approach, where basically we have foundation programs, intermediate programs, and advanced programs. All of these came from talking to our corporate partners. What do they need? What do they think there is room for growth? What are the challenges that faces them, the pains, and so forth. And I think one of the reasons that this report came to exist is that all these feedbacks, we used to get them separately and in chunks. And we figured out that at a certain stage, we need to come together and bring all this knowledge in one area in order to help us and help others as well. So basically, pre-2020, pre-2020, as I said, it was a one-size-fits-all. We had some functional programs, some sectorial programs, and as you see, it was one topic per area, and that's it. So all in all, we had maybe 15 programs. When we met with some of you in December 12th, 2019, we were launching the new programs that we were going to start in February 2020. At the time, we had about 10 programs with many more to promise. We didn't know that COVID was going to hit in March 2020. We had a lot of hopes, expectations, and plans. And we actually launched the first program in February 2020, and then COVID hit. And we had a very serious decision to take at that time. Like many companies, the first obvious choice was slow down, take it easy, cut costs. Let's wait and see how these things are going to happen, since we didn't expect much business to come very soon. We actually had to cancel all our programs for June because we did not know when we are going to open again, when we closed in March. But actually, we came together with management and we made a decision that we are going to completely go against the current. We are going to invest heavily, and work to fill, or not to fill, to take advantage. I can only say that we took advantage of COVID, to take advantage of the time that was spared with programs that were not running and people were not busy, in order to develop what we can in terms of portfolios. So when things come back to normal, if they will ever come back to normal, we would have a more comprehensive program. So we went from the 9-10 programs that were available in December 2019 to triple that number. As we said, there is a more of a structured design to the programs like now. We went from one real estate course to to 4, actually 2 courses and 2 certificates. Marketing from 1 diploma to 3 certificates and diploma, 2 certificates, diploma and a short course. Healthcare, banking, general management, operation, human resource, everything we have developed. And how we did that is basically through listening to clients. What we decided to do is that it no longer works to one-sided decision of what the market needs. So we created committees in each area where we brought together industry experts that came and consulted us in a way on where the areas of pains are and what are the topics that needs to be covered, what is the profile of participants that can approach each area of expertise. And based on that, we developed this portfolio that is still being developed. Actually, there are a couple of things written in the blank boxes here. There is the venture capital in the purple here, and there is digital transformation in digital business. So basically, this is our open enrollment programs. Also, as many of you might already know, for the first time also, we started having a calendar year of the programs and what is running at what time. This is in order to help L&D management to plan ahead and for their budget and for their year's activity. Open enrollment is what we offer to the public. It is what's happening regularly. They are our bread and butter for the programs that we have. Of course, as Marlene will come to explain, our business solution area has the ability to replicate any of those programs in-house at any clients. Companies have the ability to send nominations to these programs. So if you need to send 2, 3, 4 people to a certain program, you don't want to have the full cohort in-house and so forth, this is available. And we have a series of scholarships depending on the number of nominations that come from every company. Of course, it's good to say here when we say across programs, because we do not allow within the same program from the same company more than 5 people. Otherwise, they would hijack the program and it would be a little bit tough for the rest of the audience. We also have a UN Women scholarship that is 50% on selective programs, and our business solution team can definitely brief you on which programs are those. Those are very interesting programs, and it's a very good opportunity for women leaders in different areas to take advantage of such generous scholarship. And of course, all our AUC alumni and exec-ed alumni coming back to us are also, they can take advantage of our 10% scholarship as well. At this stage, I would like to leave the podium to Marlene to discuss business solution and what we do there and how we do it. Thank you very much.
صباح الخير، أنا مارلين ميشيل، أنا Director of the Business Solution Unit في ال Executive Education. أنا I'll give you a quick brief على ال Business Solution Unit. إيه ال main services that we offer, customized solutions that we offer to our corporate clients أو our clients in general, ال process of customization that we follow، وطبعاً في الآخر I'll show you sample of our clients that we are currently dealing with. هبتدي الأول بالcorporate solutions that we offer. إحنا mainly بنقدم two main services, assessment services و training services. الassessment service إحنا بنعمل customization لassessment tools for the purpose of for recruitment أو promotion purpose. يعني بنتعاقد مع العملاء corporates أو public sector، بيجي مثلا يدخلني في البروسيس of selection for hiring process، بنعمل customized tools customized exams بcomponents معينة، وكل component ليه طبعا different weight حسب الكرايتيريا of الكلاينت بتاعي. احنا اللي بنعمل development للاسسمنت تول كلها، client بيراجعها وبعدين نبتدي احنا implementation of the exam، نهاندل the whole process from A to Z لحد ما نشير results with our client. ده بالنسبة للاسسمنت. for training احنا عندنا بنتعامل في حاجتين زي ما محمد قال. some of our clients بيبقوا interested في off shelf programs، البروجرامز اللي already موجوده في البورتفوليو of open enrollment programs، بيبقوا عايزينها as is to their employees to a group of their employees، او عايزين يعملوا عليها some changes، يزودوا industry related cases عليها اكتر، بيعملوا some slight adjustments او amendments على البرنامج اللي already existing في البورتفوليو عندنا. فده بنقدمه to certain corporate clients، أو بنخلق برنامج from scratch، بنعمل business solution customized training بنخلقه from scratch based على client needs. العملاء بتوعنا mainly احنا بنتعامل مع different corporate clients طبعا across different industries. بقالنا in the last 4 years بنتعامل extensively مع government sector government والpublic sector. وبرضو in addition الفترة اللي فاتت زادت جدا نسبة sponsored programs اللي احنا بنشتغل فيها. corporate training طبعا مفهوم. بالنسبة للجوفرمنت احنا لينا تعاون كان مع Ministry of Planning، دربنا around 120 واحد من مختلف الوزارات على Leadership for Government Excellence Program. It was a leadership program للناس اللي كانوا إن شاء الله أول باتش هين العاصمة الإدارية across كل الوزارات. والبرنامج ده it was very successful program، كانت مدته 3 أشهر، شهرين بيتعملوا في ال AUC وشهر في King's College London. و it was a very successful experience الحمد لله. ومضينا عقد جديد السنة دي هندرب another 120 participants برضو across different ministries. برضو في تعاقد مع وزارة الداخلية، بندرب حوالي 350 police officer كل سنة، متقسمين على 10 runs، بنديهم crisis management diploma، بس دي بتتقدم بالعربي وموجودة جوه already في أكاديمية الشرطة، بتتقدم في البريمسز بتاع أكاديمية الشرطة. ده example برامج اللي احنا بنعملها الجوفرمنت والبابليك سيكتور. السبونسر بروجرامز بيبقى فيه تعاقد مع شركات معينه. فور اكزامبل جالنا شال ايجيبت كانت متعاقده معانا ان هي تدرب تسبونسر تدريب 180 ميدل مانجمنت من مختلف الشركات المصريه، البترول المصريه، كانت هي السبونسرنج البروجرام ده. اجين ات واز ا فيري سكسسفul بروجرام الحمد لله. بالنسبه للسيكتورز او الارياز اللي احنا بنغطيها، احنا بنكفر كل الارياز اللي محمد قالها في الاوبن انرولمنت بروجرامز ان اديشن للكوربريت جوفرنس بلس البانك ريدنس بروجرامز اللي بنعملها فور اس ام ايز. السيكتورز زي ما انتم شايفين احنا بنتعامل مع معظم السيكتورز اللي موجوده في مصر تقريبا. طيب هنخش بعد كده هاو دو وي دو ات، ازاي احنا بنعمل الكاستمايزيشن لل بزنس سولوشن بروجرامز اللي هي البرامج اللي احنا بنخلقها فروم سكراتش. احنا بنعدي في فيز طويله الاول بريباريشن فيز، لازم نتاكد ان البرنامج ده احنا بنخلقه بيزد على الكلاينت نيدز، فلازم بيبقى في سيريز اوف ميتنجز الاول، بنقعد مع العميل نعرف منه اكزاكتلي ايه النيدز بتاعته، ايه المين تشالنجز والبريسنج ايشوز اللي هو بيعاني منها الفتره دي اللي عايز يعالجها ثرو تريننج. بعد كده بنبتدي نعرف التارجت اودينس المفروض هياخدوا التدريب ده، ايه المشاكل اللي هم بيعانوا منها، ايه الليفل اوف اكسبيرينس عندهم، لو في قبل كده previous training خدوها in different areas. ونبتدي بعد كده نخش في الديزاين فيز ونبني البروجرام بيزد على الانبوت اللي خدناه في اول ميتينجز. في الديزاين فيز احنا بنتعاون مع بول اوف سبجكت ماتر اكسبرتس ان اديشن طبعا للفاكولتي اوف ذا سكول اوف بزنس، والشركه او الكوربريت كلاينت بيبقى ماشي معانا in this phase step by step عشان يتاكد ان فعلا what we are developing هو ده اللي meeting their needs، هو ده exactly what they want. وفي الاخر طبعا بتيجي الفيز بتاعت البروجرام ديليفري، بنعمل امبلمنتيشن للبرنامج سواء في الكلاينت بريمسز او عندنا في الاي يو سي بريمسز، عربي او انجلش طبعا it depends على الكلاينت ريكوست والبريفرنسز بتاعته. وبيبقى blend of theories in addition طبعا اعلى نسبه بتبقى اكتر للانتراكتيف براكتس اورينتد تولز، بنستخدم stimulation، بنستخدم case studies، بنستخدم interactive tools كتيرة قوي في التريننج عشان يبقى فعلا ليه الامباكت اللي احنا عايزينه. معظم البرامج بتاعتنا ما بتنتهيش عند الفيز دي، بيبقى فيه بعد كده post training assessment بيتعمل in different ways and forms. ممكن نعمله through final exam للبارتيسيبنتس اللي حضروا التريننج، ممكن برضو اخر حسب طبيعه البرنامج طبعا وحسب الاتفاق مع الكلاينت ممكن يتعمل through individual action plans البارتيسيبنتس هيشتغلوا عليها on completing البرنامج، او projects real life projects و initiatives هم هيطبقوها في الشركه او في الجهه اللي هم بيشتغلوا فيها بعد ما يخلص البروجرام. وبيبقى فيه فولو اب مننا كتيم AUC برضو مع السبجكت ماتر اكسبرتس، بيبقى فيه فولو اب بعد كل مثلا 3 اشهر او 6 اشهر على البروجرس بتاع البارتيسيبنتس بتوعنا، سواء في الاكشن individual action plans اللي هم شغالين عليها او البروجكتس اللي بيعملوا لها implementation في الاورجنايزيشنز بتاعتهم، عشان نتاكد فعلا ان البرنامج حقق الريزلتس اللي كان المفروض already developed يعني عشان يعملها، ونتاكد ان الامباكت اوف ذا تريننج واز بوزيتيف. ده بالنسبه للبروسيس اللي احنا بنديفلوب بيها البزنس سولوشن بروجرامز. at the end طبعا دي سامبل من البارتنرز اللي احنا بنتعامل معاهم in different sectors سواء government او corporate partners. وزي ما محمد قال احنا كبزنس سولوشن تيمز برضو مسؤولين على nominations receiving nominations from our corporate clients. احنا اللي بنهندل process from A to Z starting from receiving nominations from the client, following up على progress of the participants throughout the program, reporting the status of the participants سواء attendance أو progress report عنه للشركة، وطبعا final في الآخر خالص issuing of invoices والcollection. فلو في أي requests احنا اللي بنهندل كل requests عندنا كتيم. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments related to the presentations اللي فاتت؟ Thank you all very very much for coming today. وإن شاء الله يبقى ده يعني بكورة يبقى a regular meeting لينا معاكم. I have 2 requests from my team. One is we'd like to invite everyone for a group photo. فهنقف شوية تحت هنا وشوية فوق هنا عشان نبان. And please help yourselves to the refreshments اللي موجودة. Thank you all very much for coming.